Good afternoon. I am here with David Korman from Korman's Law, and we're happy to give everybody a quick update on the COVID-19 clauses.
Well, thanks for having me on, David. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it's always nice to chat with people from your office.
Excellent. David, just before we continue, can we see your shirt? Because I think you're wearing a really interesting shirt today.
Yeah, can you see that?
That's a clear message to everybody.
Yeah, I live in this shirt now. So.
Awesome. Well, David, you and I had a conversation over the weekend about COVID-19 clauses, and you brought something to my attention. We thought it's really important that we get the message out there. So we wanted to do a video webinar between you and I and just really get the message out there.
Yeah, I think that's important because there's a lot of misinformation in the marketplace right now on how to use these clauses. So let's take a couple minutes and just go through it.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen here.
Okay, while that's coming up, I'll just, in terms of some background, a lot of these clauses came up back a couple months ago when we were just starting the isolation process, and we didn't know at the time whether the government was going to shut everybody down completely. But in the meantime, the government decided that we were an essential service, so we've been closing transactions. So some of the clauses that were circulated back in early March dealing with COVID really have not been very applicable. So I think that's why it's worthwhile doing this. So,
excellent.
So the first clause, you want to open up each one?
Sure, we can go through them, but why don't we talk about the clauses in generality, which ones to use, which ones not to use, and kind of what you're seeing out there and in terms of your experience?
Okay, well, there's the problem that I'm going to tell everybody about is all deals with the delay of closing clauses, okay? Because basically a message to you is don't bother putting them in, you don't really need them. So before I get back to that, the clause is dealing with the purchase price, which basically says that the buyer will pay the purchase price by certified check or bank draft, which is a normal process, but also should now include, and I'm not sure if it's in this clause, that it can be done by wire transfer, because that's been really key to getting transactions closed. Okay.
So we're going to add that in, done by wire transfer.
That should be done by wire transfer. So that's a key one. If you go back to your list, there should be another clause in there that, that deals with keys being delivered.
Mm-hmm. So actually, I pulled up the balance of purchase price number 2, and this one does have the wire transfer information.
Right.
By wire transfer where possible, or by direct deposit into the seller solicitor's trust account.
Right.
Any such transfer or deposit should be accompanied by written confirmation of such a deposit.
Yeah, so that's good. Because that's the way we're closing transactions. We're getting things wired and avoiding trips to the bank. That's the whole intent of that. So we want to make sure we have the right to do that. Okay.
Perfect.
I know you've got so if you go down towards the bottom, you've got electronic execution there.
Yes.
Okay. So that clause is something that should go in, and that just allows the parties to sign electronically. In your profession, you guys are all used to doing that with DocuSign and things like that. That's not part of the legal process. DocuSign is not accepted as part of the legal process right now. But we want to have a clause in there that does allow electronic signing of closing documents. So it is important to go ahead and put that clause in. Okay.
So everybody use the electronic execution paperless closing clause. Okay.
Yeah, and if you go below that, the one on transfer of keys, that's another clause that's good to put in, because as most of you will know, keys were generally delivered to our office on closing, and then we would deliver them to the other lawyer. But we're trying to eliminate those type of deliveries. So a clause like this allows us to use the lock code boxes like you guys have always been doing. Your profession has been way ahead of us. So this allows us now, instead of delivering keys, to just use the lock boxes. So that's a good clause to put in.
Perfect.
Okay. Now, the rest of the clauses deal with delayed closing, and you've got all these clauses, and there's problems with all of them. So I don't think we have to look at each one individually. I can just tell you my general comments. All of these clauses were basically designed when we were anticipating that there would be a shutdown. And so far, there hasn't been a shutdown, a complete shutdown of you guys as real estate agents and brokers, and of my office as a law office. We have not been shut down. We're considered essential service. We're anticipating that could have happened. Maybe they're going to shut down the registry office. Maybe they're going to shut down all the lenders and the title insurers, and then we'd be stuck because we don't have clauses in our agreements. Okay, so what happens? But the government, in their wisdom, has decided to keep us all going. So even though some people have been putting these type of clauses in their offers, I can tell you that since March, we have closed almost 600 transactions in our office, and not one time have we needed any of these clauses to be used to extend a transaction or to do anything with it. Whether we have closed some agreements that didn't have these clauses, we got them all done, and we've closed transactions that have some of these clauses, and we never use them. And most of them have flaws just because of the way they're drafted, and because it turns out some of them provide termination rights, which we don't need. And I really tell you, do not use these without getting the advice of a lawyer to see if you really need it. And if another agent is trying to say, oh, we need these COVID delay clauses, before you accept that, run it by me or another lawyer in my office, because for the most part, you will not need them.
Okay, so David, just to recap, there's really 3 clauses that we should be using. The first is the purchase price, and to allow for wire transfers or direct deposits.
Yes.
The second one is electronic signatures and paperless closing.
Yes.
And the third one is log boxes.
The log boxes, yes.
Right.
Okay.
And the big message.
Yep, go ahead,
right.
David.
Sorry, and the big message to all the realtors is to really pay very specific attention and avoid using any of the delay of closing clauses for COVID-19, because really without the shutdown of the government, they have not been necessary at this point.
Correct. And if for some reason the government changes their position, then they won't do that without providing that there'll be some sort of automatic delay on closings. They will not be just terminating our transactions. So right now, no need to do it. If you're considering it, get legal advice before you accept anything like that.
Awesome. Well, David, listen, thank you very much for coming on and for, as always, giving us great information and keeping us informed.
Okay, my pleasure. Stay safe, everybody.
Thank you very much.
And conquer.
Yes, sir. Conquer COVID-19.
Conquer COVID-19.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave.
Okay, thank you.